how to create an opart triangular fill design in Photoshop. I'm using CC 220. You could use 219, 218, etc. Go over to the tools and select the rectangular marquee tool and create a selection. Hold down the shift to create a square. Once you've done that, go over to the gradient tool. And I'm using a basic gradient, black to white. And you could modify that if you wish as well. Using the angle option there, the type. And I'm also using blending mode of normal. So with that gradient, what you do, go over to the selection and go to the top left and drag down all the way to the bottom right. And you've got that design. Now you can see you've got a nice gradient on one side, very grey to white, and you've got a solid black on the other side. And you can define that as a pattern. I'm not going to use it, but I'm storing it away. Maybe I might use it. So it's always handy just to put into your presets. So edit, menu, and define pattern. That selection I want to save because I might be doing complex transformations and it's nice to have that selection stored away so you can bring it back at any point. So give it a name and click OK. Now I want to go to the select menu again and I want to transform it. And I'm going to go with 50, 50-50. Could go with 75, 75, perfectly okay. So go to the top there and enter 50 and enter 50 on the other side. Make certain it's going into the center. So it's the selection is just transformed going inwards. It's not sort of going off to the edge of the box. And then what you do, use the gradient tool again, but go from the bottom right up to the top left with the same gradient. You could, of course, vary the gradient if you wish. So once you've done that, you've got that lovely design there, a sort of shadow design. And I want to go back to the original selection. So select menu and a load selection. Now, of course, this could be created in a different document. You might need to select a different document there. In this case, it's not, so the document is the same as the current document. And the channel is select one. So make certain you select that. You can see there, select one. And then click OK. And you're back to the original selection. And what you need to do then is just go over and define that as a pattern. And that's going to be the one that I use. Now, of course, you could create all kinds of different designs. I'm just using the rectangles and triangles, but you could use circles, etc. as well, or other designs. So edit menu and define pattern. So it's stored away as a preset. Now go to a completely fresh document or use the history panel and go back to new. Now I'm going to create it on a layer. I always like using layers because you can then just delete the layer. If you're not happy with design, you can just quickly delete it. So layer menu and new layer, and then edit and fill. Contents, set to pattern. Custom pattern, set to the one that you've just created, or maybe the early one if you want to use that one instead. So you've got that design. And script, set that to on. Now, I always deselect and set it back on again. And that sounds odd, but sometimes Photoshop, for some weird reason, will just run the standard pattern, which is fine as well. Doesn't have to be brick fill. Could be just the standard pattern as well. I just happen to be using brick fill in this case because you could use other options in that. And also you've got the option with this brick fill Instead of this normal pattern, you've got the option for color randomization, also for brightness. In this case, of course, I'm not using it. So it's actually near enough the same as the default one. But another thing you can do quite nicely, which you can't do in the default one, is you can vary the scale. And that's useful as well. Because you might not want the size that you've created, the default size. So now what you can do, you can scale it, say 0.57. So all the other settings, so 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0. Very easy to remember. And pattern scale, just set that to what you want. The preview very rarely ever matches the end result. You might get smaller, might get bigger. It's always trial by error, always fun. Now I've got that design. It's all applied to that layer you've created. So you've got layers panel over there. You can see the design there. And with that layer selected, what you can do, you can turn it into a smart object. I like smart objects. Unless you're going to do something like apply brushes or something. I always like to convert it into a smart object. Now I could store it away as a design as well to the library. Now as a smart object, you can see it over there, smart object. And window and layers. Now you can go to apply effects in the filter menu. Maybe turn it into a 3D design. Go to the 3D menu. You can go to edit and transform, maybe distort. Now you could duplicate the design 3 or 4 times and maybe build up a very unusual design. So you distort it and then line them up to create sort of a weird sort of 3-dimensional design. Up to you. But there's a distort design for the... But you can always undo. If you don't like it, just undo it. But you can also go, say, to edit and transform and warp. Just warp it. Just click on the document and just warp. Drag in different directions. And there's a whole load of videos about the warp on the Graphic Extras channel. And you can add additional warp as well by right-clicking, and there's an option will pop up. I'm going to just show you that in a sec. So right-click, and you can split the warp crosswise, vertically, horizontally. And again, once you've done that, what you can do, you can just drag in different directions. Just create a design you want. And again, you can always undo. Don't want it? Undo it. You can rotate it as well, which is quite a nice feature by using the anchor points there. So once you're happy with the whole thing, of course, what you can do, just press return. And you've got your design. So you can create all kinds of really weird designs using this approach. Press return. And also you can even do apply effects. So you could just go to the effects menu and apply a whole range of different effects. So filters and then Liquify. Just go for Liquify. Now in this case, I'm going to be using a brush that is way too big. And that creates a bit of a blurring design. So I don't think it's probably best to avoid using a brush that's near enough the whole document size. So reduce the brush size a bit and distort parts of the image there. And you can always cancel it or undo. There's a whole range of other options, blurs, and many, many more. I'm just going to go back to the original one. Because you can do other designs. So you don't have to do just the basic design that I just had then. In this case, I'm just going to show you another fill. I'm just using the same design, but I will go a few minutes. I will show you a new, slightly different design than this. But again, you can vary the scale. And sometimes with the small ones, maybe it's not so good. So you've got, say, a much more visible opart design there. That's just by changing the scale. And again, you can always convert it to Smart Object and then save it to your library. And then again, you can go and use the Edit menu and distort it, or apply perspective, or rotate it, scale it, duplicate it. Edit and fill. And I'm going to show you the other one as well that I created earlier. So that one will be used as well. And that's a much more basic design. And again, make certain the script is on. Click OK and just run that. You can see the design there. It's not, I don't think it's as good. It's nice. All triangles. Now I'm just going to go complete fresh new document. And I'm going to go back to the same thing as before. I'm just going to go for a rectangular selection, square selection, because I'm holding the Shift key down. So that's rectangular Marquee tool. And again, the gradient. Now you can modify the gradient. You just click on the gradient. Once you select the gradient tool, you can click on that preset at the top, click on it, and you can modify it slightly. Maybe add some additional stops, maybe change the colours, maybe add a grey, maybe go for blue. Up to you. And you can vary the midpoints. Just go there to the midpoints and drag those closer or further away. Once you've got your design, now it doesn't work as well if you just start that's what happens if you don't start it right at the top or right at the bottom. So top left again, all the way down to the bottom, and hold down Shift. Sometimes when you apply it, you might notice you haven't done it exactly right, but you can look at it and see the selection is exactly from top left to the bottom right. Now again, go and save the selection. So select menu. Go down. Obviously, I don't want to do the transform at that point. What I want to do is save the selection. I'm going to call it select to. So save selection. And give it a name. And that's just so, because now I'm going to create a design that's a bit more complex than the first example. So I've saved the selection. Now what I want to do is transform that selection. So select menu, transform selection. Go up to the top and enter 75, 50, whatever you want. And press return. 75 in this case. And then go to the gradient tool and then do it from bottom right to the top left. And you've got your design. So you can see now it's obviously the border is a bit smaller. Again, what you can do is select menu and transform selection and transform that. Set that to 50 or 75 and so you can just keep transforming it over and over again. So you can see the design selection is reduced. And now remember which way to do it again. You go from the top left to the bottom right. So you end up having it flipped over the other way again. So you've got your design there. So you've got your selection, and then what you can do, you can apply another transformation. Not a good idea to go to the layer menu. It's not going to be any help. but you can continue to create additional selections. So select and transform selection. Then when it gets like that, when you get really quite close together, it makes it a bit harder to work with. So enter a value. And you might at this point need to use Navigator. You can zoom in a bit better, so it makes it easier to see the gradient you're creating. Because when you go down there, it's a bit, again, go from bottom right to the top left. It might not be exactly right. So it's a lot easier if you use the Navigator instead of trying like I'm doing, trying to do it, and sometimes it just doesn't work. You think, oh, I'm right, but it's not. It's slightly shifted over a bit. And then, of course, what you can do, you can deselect it at that point. Now, don't have to. Obviously, what I want to do is save it as a pattern. But I can use the select menu because I saved it. And now, because it would be very difficult to go with a transform back to what it was. So I've got that selection now from that load selection. And then what I can do is edit menu and define pattern. Click OK. So now it's a slightly more complex pattern than the first attempt. Go back to a fresh document or history panel and new. And create a layer again. Always like layers. So new layer. Edit menu and fill. Then go again. You've got pattern as the contents. Fill. Set it to the one you just defined. And script is on. Make certain that script is on. And brick fill. And you've got your design there. Now this time you might want to increase the size a bit, the scale. And click OK. So you can see your design there, that opart design there. Now it's a layer. So again, what you can do, you can go to the layer menu and turn it into a smart object. Or you can, if you don't want it, you can always undo and just apply it again, maybe with a different scale. So layer menu, smart objects, and convert to a smart object. Then edit and transform. Maybe warp or distort or perspective, up to you. Or you just leave it as is. Hope you found this tutorial of interest. Please subscribe to Graphic Extras channel. Always add new tutorials about Photoshop, Illustrator, and many others. Please add a comment or two, always appreciated, a dislike or like. Thank you much.